All right, girls. If you want to keep working with me, the assignment, bring in the fugitive.
They obviously have a gift for this line of work. What if they become the best bounty hunters in Atlanta? What's stopping us?
Hola, Carolina. Yo soy trabajo.
Hey, let's start the show!
Bad Spanish is one of my favorite things. Welcome to Cordkillers, the show about watching the stuff you love, when you want, where you want, however you want. I'm Tom Merritt.
Yo soy Brian Brushwood. And most importantly, that was Teenage Bounty Hunters from Netflix. Tell us about it, Bryce.
What two twin sisters, Sterling and Blair, become bounty hunters in the self-explanatory Teenage Bounty Hunters. That's coming to Netflix August 14th. It's a series. And I think they don't say Genji Cohen in the trailer, but they do say from the people behind Glow and Orange is the New Black. So
why would you not say Genji Cohen?
Maybe people know the show's better than her name. I don't know. Google it. Google it. Coming to Netflix August 14th.
Or it's other producers, not Genji Cohen, and you want them to think it's Genji Cohen.
That's what this magician's mind is thinking.
One way or another, it's from the makers of. And this here is from the makers of Buzz Out Loud and Scam School. Let's move on to the primary target. Oh, people, stop breaking important Cordkillers news on Tuesdays, for goodness sake. Universal Pictures and AMC Theaters agreed Tuesday last week to reduce the 90-day exclusive theatrical window for some movies. The multi-year agreement lets Universal rent digital copies of its movies to customers for around $20 as soon as 17 days after the first appearance in theaters. So they won't be able to sell them. They won't be able to rent them for cheap, but 17 days after a movie appears in a theater for AMC Theaters, NBC Universal can start renting it online in all your regular stores, Google Play, iTunes, etc., for $20. AMC will get a share of the digital revenue. We don't know how that works. They just kind of vaguely threw that out. And probably one of the ways it works is AMC will rent out these movies on its own online service. We talked about this a long time ago. You may have forgot. AMC Theaters has a video rental service that they've been promoting during the pandemic. So that's there. It's expected that major blockbusters from Universal, stuff like Jurassic World, would still have the regular 90-day theatrical run. We don't know what parts of the agreement play on or apply to that, but all the experts are like, Jurassic World's going to run 90 days. They're not going to rent that one out. It's mid-tier movies, comedies, some romances. Those will be the ones likely to move to online rental sooner. We don't know how all this is going to go with the other players in the game. Cineworld CEO Mookie Greidinger told Deadline last week, "We do not see any business sense in this model," which could just be a negotiating tactic, or it could be the fact that he really doesn't see any business sense in doing that. Now, couple key things to keep in mind, Brian. This does not reduce the window for all movies. We're going to see varying windows for different movies. Like I said, 90 days for the blockbusters, but there might be some that go 30 days or something. Once the window is open, some movies might still stay in theaters. So they might start renting at 17 days, but the theatrical run be 25 days, something like that. It doesn't reduce the window for all theaters, just AMC. So that pushback is going to continue and potentially could undermine this deal if none of the other theaters get on board. It doesn't reduce the window for any other studio yet. A Disney movie still has to abide by 90 days. We'll need to watch closely for what, if any, arrangements are announced by the other theater chains and studios. They may not all fall in line, or we may get some complicated setup for a while where there's differing agreements in different theaters. It could increase the number of mid-budget movies that Universal, or if other studios get in on this, other studios are willing to take risks on because they know they can send them to streaming faster. Jeff Shell at NBC downplayed this when someone asked him about it. He said he didn't think they would change the number of movies they make at all, but who knows? It could be a template for Netflix to compromise on the window. Remember, Netflix has said, what if we do 14 days? And AMC said, no, 90, no, 90. All the others said, no, 90. If now it's 17 days, Netflix might agree to that. Michael Nathanson of Moffett-Nathanson said this will likely increase the money studios can make on these smaller budget movies. It will also likely reduce attendance somewhat in theaters, which could result in fewer screens. And it's unknown if that happened, what effect that would have on your blockbusters, which sometimes like to fill up every available screen they can.
Oh man, so much to unpack here. Let me start with the first thing that popped into my mind, and tell me if you disagree. Number one, this is all happening because you can't put the genie back in the bottle. Everybody's had a taste of what it looks like to go direct to consumer, and all of a sudden they have a credible threat. We have what economists call a natural experiment right here, and AMC, all of a sudden it's like, we don't know when people are coming back or what it'll look like, but we've had a lot of power for a lot of time. So first, genie back in the bottle, yes, no.
I think that has a lot to do with it. I think people overemphasize the importance of Trolls' success online as being the shot heard round the world that ended the window. But I do think that Universal used what they learned there to convince AMC. I think they looked at it and said, look, we know it's not apples to apples because there was a lockdown and people couldn't even go to theaters. But given what we were able to do here, we could do all right putting some movies straight. Would you rather us do that or compromise on the window? AMC Theaters, which is, just narrowly avoiding bankruptcy right now, has their back against the wall. So yeah, I think the genie was able to creep out during the lockdown, and now is like, no, I am not going back into lockdown in that bottle.
Second thesis. Man, is there going to be some insane horse trading going on behind the scenes, and AMC is going to wield incredible power thanks to one very mushily defined word, blockbuster. Who's to say what's a blockbuster and what's not a blockbuster? Is that AMC who gets to say it? Is that Universal who gets to say it? There's going to be so many negotiations. There's going to be, I'll give you this, but I'm going to want this, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. First of all, tell me if you disagree with that part.
I do. The thing about blockbusters getting 90 days is only being said by journalists based on them talking to other people in the industry. And so I think that's a settled situation. I think AMC and Universal came up with a definition that they could agree on. And we're like, yeah, no, if it's expected to make 200 million, we put it in the full window and everybody's fine with that. But they didn't want to put that definition out for the rest of the world to see.
Okay, so that may undercut my third point because I suspect there will be a lot of argument about what is and isn't expected to make how much. And AMC can, Universal say, well, we expect this, Ishtar 2 to make $205 million. It's definitely a blockbuster. And AMC says, we spent $20 on a survey on the street and it says it's going to make $20 in a taco. Also, that's the $20 that it's going to make. I believe that where there's mush, there's argument. Also, here's the real point that I'm getting to. This is AMC wielding power by being very large. Independents, I fear, are going to get squeezed out in the end, which is why Cineworld, a smaller brand, says this makes no sense at all. We don't like this because what this is setting up major powerhouse and major powerhouse do horse trading. Form, there's an economic word for it. I think it's cartel. Where they work together and eventually, I want to ask again why we had to break up of theater-owned chains and or studio-owned movie theaters and all that stuff. It just feels like we're getting closer to those days again. It seems like there was an explosion 100 years ago and everything's collapsing again.
Yeah. So in point of order, you're seeing mush because nobody said what the real deal is.
Right.
You're seeing mush because I'm writing Blockbuster, because Variety wrote Blockbuster, because I think that kind of stuff, the theaters and the studios agree on how much money the stuff's making. They both want to put as many butts in the seats as possible. And I think there's probably a natural agreement of, oh yeah, if we didn't do the 90, I put it this way. I think this agreement could very reasonably have AMC giving Universal all the control. Like, you can do any movie at 17 days. We know you won't because it's not in your best interest.
Oh, and you know what? I'm realizing it's very easy to put a performance clause in there as well, where it's just like, sure, if you think it's a blockbuster, we get 90 days. If it underperforms, we can talk. And
I don't even think you need that, but that's a really good way it could also be. And that might be in there too. I just think, I think it's AMC could say like, look, we'll give you 17 days on everything, but you would be shooting yourself in the foot if you put Jurassic World up for rental 17 days after, and you know it, and we know it. And so we wouldn't be in your best interest to do it. So we're not worried about it. Right. Okay. I think that it's likely that plays into it. I think a performance clause, given the nature of these sort of things, is a real good call. Like, I bet that's in there anyway, even if they do sort of trust that everybody's going to do what's in their best interests. Then there's this,
the squeezing out of the smaller guys, the independents.
Cineworld's not small.
Okay.
Independents already didn't respect the window. So this doesn't affect independents because they're like, dude, we're the ones who are showing Netflix movies already, right?
Oh, that's a good point.
It's Cineworld is the middle one. It could be that they're like, gosh, we don't have as much leverage as AMC, and that sucks for us. It could also be that they're like, no, we got plenty of leverage. We just aren't going to blow it until we see if we can get a better deal than AMC. Like, they bit first. Now we can see what their agreement looked like and push for a better deal for us.
So on this last point, and I'm going to do my best to, and I'm like a child. I have to be told many times a thing before I understand it. But to the best of my understanding, when
you'll get 2 marshmallows if you don't eat the marshmallow now, Brian.
When in the early days, studios made the movies and owned the movie theaters, and each town usually only had one movie theater, it was kind of the equivalent of our current day cable services that we all hate, right? Because there's not enough competition. We're stuck with Spectrum here at this facility. And there was I don't know if it was a legal breaking or for what, I don't know how it happened, but the studios and the theaters broke apart, separation of church and state. And all of a sudden, every theater could show whatever movies the locals wanted. Didn't have to be Edison's Train Pulls Into Station for the 8 millionth time or Birth of a Nation for the 8 millionth time.
There's some misimpressions. Like, back when the studios owned the theaters did show movies from other studios. Okay. It's just that there was a lot of talk about horse trading. There was a lot of horse trading between the studios about getting their pictures into other studios' theaters. Well, you allow this in your studios and we'll allow that in our studios. And that was fine.
It was very cartel-y, right? It was all we're a club.
And it worked. It actually worked well for years. Nobody complained. We dived into this on Cordkillers a while back when Netflix was looking into buying a theater.
That's right.
And we found out that it really only applies to the studios and theaters that were around in the mid 20th century that the decision was about. And it doesn't apply to anybody now. And it arguably doesn't apply to some of the current big studios because they're not really the same corporate parents, et cetera, to the point that the legalities of it are intricate, to say the least, over when you can own a theater and when you can't. This is still far from a studio owning a theater, right?
Right.
It's still independent. And Netflix owning a theater, I don't really changes that. I don't know that we're risking studios owning theaters at this point. I also think back then there wasn't anything else to do. Like, you could listen to the radio, but that wasn't the same. Now you can watch movies at home. You can go to the television. Like, the competitive pressure is such that I don't know that courts would find the same reasoning to break them up. In fact, it might be better if studios owned theaters at this point. That might be what keeps them in business eventually. That'll be interesting if we get to that point where the Paramount decision no longer is welcome, because theater owners and studio owners and moviegoers are all like, please let the studios own the theaters. It's the only way we'll keep them alive.
Oh man, that really hurts my anarcho-libertarian mindset, because like the movie theater across the street from us shut down, like full on went out of business.
Mm-hmm. But they're back.
And no.
Someone bought them.
That's correct. So somebody different started, and that's actually a different institution, because they do have movie theaters, but I believe they also have bowling lanes and stuff. Like the independent movie theater died, and its corpse was purchased, and a new business is starting a new business in the shell of the old place. Which. I mean, that's fine. That's evolution. That's how it goes. Which, by the way, it's ironic given the name of the new theater. That was a joke only for Bryce, and he didn't get it. Do you know the name of the new theater?
Oh, I know.
Oh, okay. All right. He just didn't like it.
Darwin Theater, everybody.
I'm trying to wait. I mean,
You're waiting for the point.
Yeah.
The point is, I'm not very worried about this decision now, knowing that there's a fully independent theater across the street, and that's my local theater. If it was an AMC, I would be very worried, because then all of a sudden it's like, how long until it's like, why are you showing that Paramount movie? You should be showing Universal movies and start rolling that stuff in. Or how long until you start telling independent movies? I guess independent theaters can always decide to show a movie for as long as they want. And it's Universal can't get away with charging different amounts or anything. So I'm not worried. I guess the independents actually benefit. And if your local is an AMC, that I'd be worried for whoever those people are.
Yeah. I mean, think about it this way, and this may be off base, but an independent theater was surviving on patronage from people who liked it, right? They liked the vibe. They liked the curation of movies, the movies that you could see there that they would pick that you couldn't see at an AMC theater, because AMC, even though they have 12 screens, didn't pick that cool indie movie with Winona Ryder in it, et cetera, right? That's still going to happen. That's not threatened by this. Those are the theaters, like I said, who would show Roma from Netflix without blinking an eye and say, like, yeah, we don't care. Our patrons come to us because they want to be in a theater, not because they only can go here to see the movie. So I think a lot of independents will weather this better.
Yeah, I think you're right. But now I've talked myself into a corner where I think AMC locals should be worried, because there'll be undue pressure to not show non-Universal movies.
But that'll come from corporate, right? I mean, and no one in the building here in an Austin AMC is deciding what movies they show, right?
That's correct. That's my point.
I don't think there
at
will
a
be
corporate level.
I don't think there'll be an undue pressure to show or not show Universal movies, honestly. I mean, what AMC's doing here is saying, like, look, we want to do what we make the most money at doing. And Universal makes movies that make us a lot of money, and we want to show them. Doesn't mean they won't show movies from Paramount, et cetera. I'd be more worried about the lack of screens driving out indie movies from AMC. The few indie movies you get in AMC may not have the screens, because they're like, look, we don't have that many screens to show Jurassic World, so they're all Jurassic World this weekend. That could be a concern.
Yeah,
but that would also apply to a Marvel movie coming from Disney, et cetera.
But I guess at that point, if that's the one blockbuster in town, most likely they've crowded out the mid-level successes, and they're now available on video on demand, and you're watching in your own comfy home theater.
Yeah.
That romantic comedy or whatever.
Yeah, right.
In fact, actually, that might drive. In a weird way, those smaller movies might benefit, because they're going to show larger opening weekend receipts, as people are trained to realize, if you want to see it in a theater, you better go right away, because it ain't going to be around long.
I think that's the idea, is it will open the purse strings for these mid-budget movies a little bit, both from that effect and from getting money from streaming, which they would have to put off until people have kind of forgotten about them.
I'll tell you one way you can get money in reverse. It's called negative money, aka giving it to us at patreon.com/Cordkillers. How does it work, Tom?
Well, when negative money and real money meet, they destroy each other, which means if you are not giving us money, you risk destroying the money you have. So it's safer to just pledge at least $1 to patreon.com/Cordkillers.
And now look, we live in an age of scientific skepticism. There's somebody out there that doesn't believe in the concept of negative money. You know what? I bet you have some positive money. Why don't you try it out? Why don't you head on over to patreon.com/Cordkillers. I'm so excited about this joke, I can't say it. And see for yourself what happens when your positive money encounters negative money.
Yeah, it will have a positive effect, which you will be able to see on this very show the next time you watch.
Yeah.
Let's move on to how to watch. As you may have heard, Amazon, Roku, and Warner Media have not reached an agreement on putting HBO Max on the Amazon Fire TV or the Roku. For now, the HBO Now app has been renamed HBO. And now that they've sunset the HBO Go app, hey, there's only one HBO app on Roku and Fire TV. It's called HBO, and it's your only way to get HBO programming there, although it does not include the extra programming available in Max. So the extra movies, the back catalog, the originals, etc. Only HBO stuff is in the HBO app on Roku and Fire TV. Since almost all HBO subscribers, however, get Max, Variety's Todd Spangler wrote up a guide to watching HBO Max content if you're using a Roku or Fire TV. Screen mirroring is the biggest workaround. You turn on screen mirroring in the Roku settings, and then you can send your screen from an Android or Windows device to the Roku. It's not supported natively by Apple devices. However, your TV might support Apple's AirPlay. Your TV might. So you could try selecting AirPlay from an Apple device, see if your TV shows up as a destination, and then just send your HBO Max video straight to the TV. Just bypass the Roku altogether. Now, for the Fire TV, there's a fairly nice feature called side loading, because on Fire TV, you're using Android TV. It's just got a Fire TV interface on it. So you can get the HBO Max app for Android TV and run it on the Fire TV, because Fire TV is Android underneath. Now, there are some steps involved. You'll need to look those up. It involves turning off some security protections, but savvier users should have no problem doing this. You don't even need a USB stick anymore. You just plug in, you just go and you download a few things, make some tweaks, and you can load HBO Max from the Android TV Play Store onto your Fire TV if you do that. All right. The last way is the obvious one. Plug in the device that does have HBO Max, your phone, your laptop, using an HDMI cable. You can buy adapters for your phone or your laptop, and then just play it off your laptop or your phone onto your TV, and voila, you've got HBO Max.
Do you think television manufacturers like have a dog in this fight, where it's like they're on the sidelines questioning how they feel about their devices increasingly being used as dumb monitors rather than as, built-in Rokus, televisions, or any of that stuff? And
yeah,
there's part of me that actively loves that Amazon, Roku, and Warner, that they're holding out. And I love that they're fighting. I love that as a result, they're killing the name Go. They're killing the name Now. It is just HBO and HBO Max. Part of me just wants to see them hold off the whole time.
The killing of Go and Now seems like it was planned anyway.
Yeah.
Because that happened on platforms that are playing nicely with HBO Max. Your HBO Now app on the Apple TV is also HBO. So I don't know that really was a result of them fighting. I also think the different TV makers have different strategies. If you're a TV maker that's all in on the Roku interface, you probably love that people might do screen mirroring and hate that Roku is having a fight over this because you want your TV to be seen as the one that has all the stuff. If you're LG, where you're running your own WebOS and you've got the HBO Max app available and screen mirroring, you're loving it because you're like, great, you've got two ways. You could just be using the LG WebOS way to do it. Come on, folks. It'd be better than the Roku anyway, and it's built into your TV. So yeah, I think it just depends on the TV maker. Some of the TV makers don't mind being seen as dumb TVs because it would lower their expenses. It's different strategies from different manufacturers.
Yeah.
Netflix is rolling out playback speed controls on its Android app. The speed controls are available on downloaded titles saved for offline viewing. So this is not if you're streaming it. You have to download it. I think that's because they want to have the whole thing on there before they apply the control to it. You can choose to stream at half speed, 3/4 speed, 1.25 speed, or 1.5 speed. So you can slow it down or speed it up. Pitch correction keeps voices and soundtrack sounding normal. Captions stay in time with your speed. And you have to choose it for each video you watch. You can't set it and forget it. Like each time you load a downloaded video, you have to choose your speed if you don't want to watch it normal. Feature has launched and is rolling out to everyone over the coming weeks. Both the National Association of the Deaf and National Federation of the Blind commended Netflix on adding the playback feature because it's an accessibility feature as well as something people might just want to use for fun. Netflix plans to test the feature on iOS and the web, but has no plans to add it to the TV versions of its app.
So given we might, and I say might, you may say there is no have an ethical dilemma when it comes to content for its Spoilerin time now, because I personally will have a temptation to consume some content at 1.5 speed, which almost certainly, in the case of, let's say, an action-adventure show like Warrior Nun, which we're doing right now, would be unfair to the program because I would not be enjoying it the way it's supposed to be enjoyed. But might be totally fair for like an information dump program, something that's more talking or whatever, or like I just want to consume more of this faster. Separate question, if that is an ethical dilemma for us, then am I already violating the ethical dilemma? Because in an effort to want to, again, we're about to talk about Warrior Nun, and watching it, you know, taking a break of a week between each time, it's easy to forget a character's name, especially when they're all wearing the same costume and look, two of them look very similar to each other. So I not only turn on the accessibility for the closed captioning, but also turn on the audio description because they bother to say Beatrice walks in and says blank, you know, Camilla raises her crossbow, Ava wakes up, and I'm just like, there's part of me that is as dumb as Mac from Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where I'm like, nobody can understand what's happening on the screen. You got to explain it. And so I number one, is there an ethical dilemma to this? Number two, have I already violated it?
I could see where you would argue that there might be an ethical dilemma. I think for us on Spoilerin Time, it's all about our own experiences anyway. We're not trying to set up like, and we have now discerned the true artistic nature and intention of this work.
We're also pretty good about disclosing how we consumed it. You know?
So I think it's fine to say like, hey, I watched this at 1.5 times speed, so maybe I missed something, but blah, 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 right? I have found, because I do all my podcasts and most of my audiobook listening at higher speeds, that you just get used to it. In fact, that's why it's an accessibility feature for blind users. That's why the National Federation of the Blind commended Netflix is blind users often complain that audio content is too slow on video because they can process what's going on faster than sighted viewers.
Right.
And this is something to help them be able to focus better. I have found doing my own listening at faster speeds that you just get used to it. That
okay, but
it doesn't sound differently paced, especially audiobooks. It just sounds normal. And in fact, there's that classic thing that people say when they listen to a podcast at regular speed after listening at faster speeds for so long, you sound slow, you sound drunk. I think there's a relativity that happens where you just get used to the normal speed and it seems normal to you.
I agree, but I'm speaking specifically for us. Like, would it be fair for us to give an opinion about, we're about to talk about Greyhound in a little bit. Would it be fair to give an opinion about Greyhound if we watched it at 1.5 speed?
It would be fair.
As long as we disclosed it.
I would disclose it.
Yeah.
Because what I do find is I think of podcast hosts as more energetic because I listen to them at twice speed.
Okay.
I don't find the pacing of audiobooks changes. Right? Because that's all relative. That's like your mind actually sees things upside down and then flips it back, right? Like your mind just says, oh, it's at this speed. So it's now, we'll just, adjust for that. And the pacing's the same. But there is something that does change, like your sense of like, oh, wow, they're really excited or something like that.
That was a really tense moment. It's like,
yeah, right.
It lasted nearly a second long. That's okay. Well, then we'll give ourselves liberties on that, but we just have to let you guys know how we consumed it.
All right, let's talk about what to watch in Under Surveillance.
I like real estate. It's all about location.
Under surveillance.
It's finally Emmy time. It's a little later than usual, but man, Emmys have changed over the years as we've been covering this on Cordkillers and Frame Rate before it, because we've gone from like, oh, look at that, cable is getting Emmy nominations, to, oh, look at that, a streaming service got an Emmy nomination, to, oh, look at that, a broadcast network TV show got an Emmy nomination, because that's the unusual thing in the Emmys this year. Netflix received the most Emmy nominations of any studio, digital or otherwise, with 160.
160. We were excited about like 2 a few years ago.
Ozark alone had 18. HBO was number 2 with 107. It had the show with the most nominations. Watchmen got 26 alone. Amazon came in behind that with 31. 20 of Amazon's Emmy nominations were for The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. Hulu got 26 nominations. Apple TV Plus got 20, largely for The Morning Show. Disney Plus 19, mostly for The Mandalorian. Quibi got 10 Emmy nominations, all in the short form category, as you might expect. Oculus got 3 for some VR stuff, and YouTube got 2. Broadcast network TV fell from 147 nominations for all the broadcast networks to 121, and NBC's The Good Place was the only broadcast, we're not counting the cable networks, the only broadcast series in the main shows category, with This Is Us's Sterling K. Brown, the only actor, and The Good Place's Ted Danson. So 2 actors, and Blackish's Anthony Anderson and Tracy Ellis Ross picking up acting nods as well. So Good Place, the only broadcast series, then Sterling K. Brown, Ted Danson, Anthony Anderson, and Tracy Ellis Ross getting acting nominations. But that was it for broadcast, right? The rest of it's cable and digital. Top nominations for drama were The Crown, Stranger Things, both from Netflix, Better Call Saul and Killing Eve, both from AMC, The Handmaid's Tale from Hulu, and The Mandalorian from Disney Plus. On the comedy side, The Kaminsky Method and Dead to Me from Netflix, Curb Your Enthusiasm and Insecure from HBO, The Good Place from NBC, Marvelous Mrs. Maisel from Amazon, Schitt's Creek, which you might think of as a Netflix show, but it's actually from Pop TV, a cable network, and What We Do in the Shadows from FX.
Did you ever think you would see the day that a Star Wars property would be Emmy nominated as the best drama?
No, I hadn't really thought about that, right? Like Star Wars will not get.
I would say.
Did it get its Oscar noms this year?
No, but it has.
No, it was eligible this year, so there will be no Star Wars movie for next year's Oscars.
Oscars make sense, especially in visual effects or whatever.
Where I'm going with that is next year, the Oscars and the Emmys could have 0 Star Wars on Oscars, but Mandalorian and maybe some animated shows on Emmys.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't have believed that was in that category specifically. I wouldn't have believed it up until the day before I saw The Mandalorian, and then the next day would happen.
Anyway, there's some cool stuff in there. If you want to look for shows to watch, those are some of the best shows on TV. You may have skepticism about the Emmys, but that list of nominees is pretty good. Let's move on to some notes. Season 2 of The Morning Show on Apple TV Plus is being rewritten. They had only shot 2 episodes before the lockdown, so they're going to rewrite it to include the coronavirus. Jean-Claude Van Damme is currently shooting an action comedy film called The Last Mercenary in France for Netflix, directed by David Charhon. Van Damme plays a Secret Service agent who returns to France to defend his estranged son from being falsely accused of arms and drug trafficking. Brian, I know it's something you can identify with your
having arms and drug trafficking, 2 things.
Yeah, and being from France.
Yes.
Beyonce's latest video/album, Black is King, debuted this week on Disney Plus, and it's beautiful. Just watch it and listen to it. It's gorgeous. It's just a nice thing to put in your eyes and your ears. Soap operas will all be back with new episodes as of August 10th. The Young and the Restless is the last to announce they're coming back, joining The Bold and the Beautiful, which is already back, along with General Hospital, which returned August 3rd, and Days of Our Lives, which never stopped, Brian. Days of Our Lives had enough episodes banked to last through October.
Does that change the record for the longest unbroken soap opera? Because now there's a break. I thought it was Young and the Restless. I forget which one it was, but there's one that goes all the way back to the radio days and was unbroken.
Netflix announced that La Casa de Papel, aka Money Heist, will end after part 5. Part 4 came out in April. Netflix has invested around $100 million in Black Mirror creator Annabelle Jones and Charlie Booker's production company. The deal gives Netflix exclusive rights to the series it produces, as well as the right to acquire the production company over a 5-year period. And Netflix has commissioned a third series of How to Sell Drugs Online. Season 2 debuted July 21st.
That Black Mirror acquisition is a smart move.
Yeah, getting those two.
Yeah.
That's super, super smart. All right. What have you had your eyes on, Brian?
Hey, man. So I'm not sleeping great these days. So sometimes I'll fall asleep early and then wake up at 2 a.m. and realize, oh, there's no going back to bed for a little bit. And I found myself watching The Black Hole, which is notorious for being, number one, bizarre as hell for a Disney movie. Number two, awful. But I think the awful reputation, I saw it as a child. I think I was 5 or 6 at the time. And I remember it being a visual treat. Then I remember revisiting it in my 20s, but this was on standard definition VHS, and it was unwatchable garbage, full stop, no question about it. But going back and seeing it in HD, and it's got the last third is bonkers and nonsense, and the characters are goofy as hell. The robots are dumb, but visually, it's a real treat. You get to see Anthony Perkins from Psycho. Ernest Borgnine played the least credible scientist of all time. The opening third of it. It's the Tempest, basically. It begins with a meteor storm and it ends with a firestorm leading into the black hole. Just watch the first third of the Black Hole and ignore the fact that the budget was not where it needed to be. But the score is great, and you get an incredible sense of scale. It's less terrible than you think it is.
I have wonderful memories of the Black Hole. I believe it had come onto HBO in 1982 when we first got cable. And I know, however we were watching it, my brother and I would watch it over and over again. And I have never watched it since. It has merely existed in my memory of, Bob and Maximilian. And I don't know if I want to disturb that, but you've tempted me.
I highly recommend the experience.
I
highly recommend the experience, and you'll see that all the robots are bad mimes doing herky jerky robot walks or whatever. But you will see past it in HD and see the visual stylings. I mean, it feels big for the first third. I mean, actually, I think it's like Tron, a movie that is probably wonderful to have with none of the audio. Tron is amazing if there's no audio whatsoever. Then you turn on the audio and it's hot garbage. Same with Black Hole.
I remember torturing my younger brother because we'd watch it, and then I would go up to him and go Maximilian and just shake my hand like the rotors that were on Maximilian, and he'd run away screaming. I continue my love affair with AT&T TV Now. We'll see how long it lasts. I've had a few more glitches since last week's revelation. A few things where you go back to the app and it's like, you can't load that channel. And then you have to back out and go back in to get the channel launched. But at one point this weekend, I was switching on AT&T TV Now between hockey, the NBA, and baseball. And it was quite nice to just be like, bloop, 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 bloop. Little, tap on the remote, and it kept streaming fairly well every time I switched, and I was watching live sports that counted.
Forgive me, which is the novel solution each of those are using for COVID stuff? I know NBA is doing everything at Disney.
Okay, yes.
And I know
baseball
they're putting
is largely not caring and paying for it.
Okay.
No, they're doing tests every 2 days, and they're keeping teams travel minimized by having teams that are closer to each other travel to play. It's, in my opinion, the worst approach to preventing infections, and it shows because you've got like 4 teams not playing over the weekend because of COVID infections. The NBA put everyone in the ESPN zone in Orlando.
It's Disney's Wide World of Sports. Yeah.
And there's like 3 courts, and You're not allowed to leave. You're part of the bubble, and you just hang out and get everything there. Hockey, I think, did the best one. They fenced off downtown Edmonton and Toronto around the arena, included like a theater and a hotel and a bar and a few restaurants.
You could just live in a little
Here
tiny
you go,
town.
hockey players. Until the playoffs are over, you live in Hockey Town.
I mean, I guess that's sort of like a military base, because they actually, when I did a tour of military bases, it was amazing because they all looked exactly the same. They all had a town square. They all had a movie theater. They were all, that's brilliant. That's great.
Yeah. And both the NBA and the hockey one seem to be doing fairly well. So anyway, it was nice to be watching that. And I don't know, I will continue to report on my usage of AT&T TV Now. The one complaint I have, other than occasional glitches now, is that I went to see if I could upgrade my package to add the MLB network and the NHL network. And on the website, when I'm not logged in, it says there's a package that has them that I can pay extra to get. But when I go log in and go to my account, it doesn't list those packages, and I have no idea why that is.
Oof.
Yeah. Make it easy for me to give you more money. Come on. What are you talking about? All right. What should we be on the lookout for, Bryce?
Hey, we got a glowing recommendation for a behind-the-scenes series from Bill. Bill writes, Brian, Tom, and Bryce, I ended up watching Disney Gallery, The Mandalorian, when I was just killing time, and I'm so glad that I did. I didn't start it when it first came out, but I was surprised to see that Disney Plus didn't release the whole thing all at once. They released one episode a week until they were done. There's 8 episodes, by the way. I'm not sure why, but since this wasn't fiction, I thought they would have released the whole thing at once. I guess Netflix has trained us to expect entire seasons at once. I, like you, thought that 8 episodes was going to be a lot for a making of series. But each episode had me wanting more. There's not a making of episode for each episode of The Mandalorian. Instead, each episode of Disney Gallery, The Mandalorian, has a theme. I know Brian and Tom will geek out watching the Directors Roundtable in the first episode. The last episode, called Connections, is especially rewarding. There are also 2 parts you just have to listen to. The first time the composer plays the opening score on set for Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni and Bryce Dallas Howard brings you a sense of joy. The second is at the end of the second episode, when Dave Filoni explains how Star Wars is all about family and hope, and how so much of the movies hangs on the duel of the Fates lightsaber battle between Darth Maul and Qui-Gon Jinn. His explanation just left everyone else in the room in awe. It shows everyone who's paying attention why Filoni is turning into such a great caretaker of the Star Wars projects. Bill in near Athens, Georgia. Thank you, Bill. Yeah, that seems pretty cool. Have either of you guys seen any of
No, but I've
this?
heard nothing but good, glowing recommendations, and I think I got a next watch.
Bill
queued
may
up.
have just convinced me that we need to watch this. Yeah.
Ah, okay. So there are 8 episodes of, one more time, what is it? Disney Gallery, well, what about that name? The Mandalorian, streaming on Disney Plus.
What channel is that on?
No one is quite sure. If you've got something we should be on the lookout for, email it to us, please, like Bill did. Email cordkillers@gmail.com. Thank you.
Hey, you're working from home, right?
Yeah, thanks to
Everyone is. That's why Patrick Beja and I started a new podcast called Work Insanity, workinsanity.net. You just go there and listen to Patrick and I tell you what it's like to work from home. I know you're like, I'm already working from home, but we're sharing tips from the audience as well as from ourselves, because we've both been working from home for 10 years or more. Patrick is insistent about treating yourself to a good lunch because he's French. And you know what? He's right. So go check it out. It's an enjoyable way to improve your work from home situation. Workinsanity.net.
Yeah. Have you guys done like a definitive how-to guide, like the must-haves, or kind of like we did with the guide to cord killing?
Through the episodes, we have touched on like aspects of that. So there's an episode where we touch on like, okay, if you don't have a lot of space, how do you set up a separate location? And we did a gear episode. So yeah, there's all kinds of good info in there.
Cool.
What else should we tell people about Doghouse Systems?
We should definitely mention doghousesystems.com/v/rogue. They just doubled the size of the SSD that you get if you use promo code ROGUE at checkout.
What?
And we're doing mystery boxes over at scamstuff.com, and they're very popular. People like them because they come with a money-back guarantee, which kind of defeats the purpose of a loot box, because you're supposed to be fearful about whether or not you're going to get good stuff or not. But we say you can give it back, and we'll give you your money back. We'll cover the cost of everything.
Take that, Belgium, and your loot box laws. Let's move on to the front lines.
Front lines.
Charter Communications added 100,000 new video subscribers. Added. I didn't say that wrong. I'm all choked up. Charter said it, quote, managed to grow faster than the rate of decline. Its Spectrum brand offered discounted packages, free add-ons, waived overdue balances for people affected by COVID-19. They did better than Comcast. Comcast lost 477,000 cable TV subscribers. Last year, it lost 224,000, so that's an acceleration. Bright spot was Peacock. Comcast Peacock signed up 10 million people in Q2, so that's pretty good. Comcast said it will credit some sports fees as it receives credit from regional sports networks, so you might be getting some money back if you're a Comcast subscriber. And Charter said that if it gets any rebates, it will pass those on to consumers as well.
I'll tell you what, man, they are being aggressive. Guess who has a telephone line now? This customer of Spectrum.
Spectrum.
Yes, so they, I doesn't surprise
I had
me.
a Spectrum guy show up at my door like, hey, I'm from Spectrum. I'm just checking on. I'm like, I'm a business customer. I have everything I need. He's like, okay, thank you. See you later. I don't take commission on business customers.
CBS All Access announced that it's adding 70 shows, a total of 3,500 episodes from Viacom networks like BET, Comedy Central, MTV, and Nickelodeon. An original spinoff from SpongeBob called Camp Coral and the SpongeBob movie will come exclusively to All Access in 2021. The app also got an interface tweak to help make its content easier to find. CBS All Access will get a new name in 2021. What? And eventually split out of the CBS app. Oh my God, today is the best day. I've gotten all the best branding news. This is amazing.
Yeah, we've been trying to guess, like, what will the CBS All Access app be called? Will it have some Viacom spin to it? Will it be something totally different? But yeah, that news about it splitting out a CBS app is big. That's new. The CBS app right now, like if you get the NBC app, it's the way you log in with your cable subscription to access NBC content. Same for Fox, same for ABC. CBS app lets you do that, but also gives you CBS All Access. So they are finally going to Peacock CBS All Access. What do you think they should name it?
I mean, we talked before about like calling it the Eye or something, or how about Oculus? Oh wait,
I don't think Facebook had a problem with that. It's totally different.
Oh man, I thought we had a pretty good name at one point. It wasn't the Eye, but it was something like that, like Vision or I forget.
Tiffany.
That's right. I think it was Tiffany. That was the one we liked. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Movies Anywhere's Watch Together feature is now available to everybody. If you have up to 9 viewers that you want to share a room and chat about a movie with, you can do that, and the movie will stay synced for everybody. All the participants must either own the movie or have received a screen pass from someone who does. So it's not going to work for every movie because not every movie offers screen pass. Watch Together is available on the mobile, web, and some smart TV versions of the Movies Anywhere app.
I'll tell you what. I've got friends who are doing who used to tour with live events, and they're getting booked like crazy for these office happy hours where it's like they have to do a Zoom meeting, so they have to do it every single day. So every Thursday afternoon they do something wacky or whatever. But and when I worked a corporate job, we would go do for certain special events. We would go see a movie premiere together. I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Interesting.
If this is an effort to make those corporate team building bucks.
As long as your team's not more than 10 people.
Yeah, that's right. Well, that is a problem. Unhinged with Russell Crowe has been considered the theatrical movie forerunner to the return of movies that was supposed to be hailed by Tenet before Tenet got, Tenet is coming out of everywhere at the same time, so the whole pattern is now broken. Anyway, Unhinged came out in the UK and brought in £174,000 from 250 locations, so about $230,000 US. Last week, the entire UK box office for all movies at all sites was $253,000, so progress.
Yeah. I remember when we were like, wait, it'll be fun. Well, we'll see how Unhinged does. And then a couple weeks later, Tenet will come out, and then Mulan, and then July will be over. It's
August. It's August, Tom.
Guess what? Welcome to August. Subscribers to Philo, that's the one that gives you AMC and Viacom channels, among others, can now send their streams to a Chromecast from Android. The feature is rolling out over the next several weeks. So if you don't see it right away, just hang in there. It's coming. Let's get to the dispatches from the front. Todd wrote in and said, "Hi guys. There was some discussion last week about video services on Google Nest Hub and other related devices. The feature I find most useful in that regard is that all of the Google Home devices with a screen also have built-in Chromecast. As my primary use case is for watching Cordkillers while working in my home office, I felt the need to write in about it. Ironically, the one time I wasn't using it to watch Cordkillers was during last week's show."
That's got to be a great moment.
Yeah, that's funny. Thank you, Todd. That's cool.
Meanwhile, Stephen wrote in saying he was getting offers, the second so far, for 2 free tickets to any movie you want from San Antonio's Santikos, or I can't see it. Santikos, yeah. He said he will not be doing it because he's crazy. He's scared of the COVID, with good reason, obviously. But man, that's I don't want to say desperate, but that is motivated. That's some motivated getting people into the theater.
Yeah, I think that's smart because right now they're just showing stuff reruns, right? Other than maybe they're showing the Russell Crowe movie, but you know they're showing stuff that they probably don't have to pay that much for anyway. Why not give a couple free theater tickets? Maybe you'll get some concession money, and you'll get people to get over their fear. Right? Yeah. Now, obviously, Steven's not going to get over his fear because he's like, forget it, man. I'm not even going to try that. But if you have people come out to the theater and see the safety, the theory goes anyway, see the safety protocols, sit through a movie, get home safely, people are more likely to come back because they're like, oh, I did it and it was fine.
Yeah. I mean, like maybe the first time you go, you're in a full spacesuit, and then you notice that they take your temperature when you walk in, and then there's hand sanitizer every 5 feet, and then you look around and everybody's spaced, and you're like, yeah. I'll just wear a mask.
Whole thing backfires if a week from now that same theater is like, oh, we're closing down because there was a major outbreak at our theater, right?
Yeah,
yeah. That's the downside. Well, thank you to our guest, you, the listener. You're the best.
Bryce,
where can we find
Thank
what you
Bryce.
Do online, listener? We'll pause while listener says that to themselves.
Yeah, they answer us at cordkillers@gmail.com.
Yeah. Our website is cordkillers.com. Our email address, like Brian said, cordkillers@gmail.com. We're live on twitch.tv/Night Attack. Also carried on diamondclub.tv Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. We'll see you again next week.
Hey, Tom Merritt.
Yes, Brian Brushwood.
Know who I love even more than my own children?
Your other children?
No, not my wife. I know what you're saying. I love our $5 patrons. These are the people that keep us loud, live, and independent. Thank you so much, $5 patrons.
You know what? I love them more than not life itself, because then I'd be dead and I couldn't appreciate them, but really, really, really close. And I'm so thankful that they are here to make this show happen.
Thank you so much to all of our $5 a month patrons. You guys are wizards. You're champions.
Thank you, everyone.
You're heroes.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.